You're watching Reality Check. Under ordinary circumstances, the inauguration of a temple, or for that matter, any religious structure, ought to pass without comment, or at least without debate. But the Bhumi Pujan of the Ram temple at Ayodhya is no ordinary event. And so we have wall-to-wall commentary and reporting. Wall-to-wall commentary and reporting. Almost all of this coverage is, however, entirely one-sided, essentially aligned to the view of the ruling establishment, painting the event in the most flattering light and portraying it as some sort of civilizational turning point for India. It's a consensus which even the main opposition party, the Congress, now echoes. The consensus that is sought to be created, though, omits certain crucial questions. For one, there is no mention at all of the violent, divisive and as yet unresolved history of the movement for the Ram temple, culminating in the demolition of the Babri Masjid in 1992, an act that the Supreme Court, while handing the land to the Hindu litigants, described as an egregious violation of the rule of law. That demolition, just to remind our viewers, was an act that cost many lives and lit many sectarian fires across India. The trial for the demolition is still underway, and the accused includes several of those who are going to be participating in tomorrow's event or involved directly with the temple project. For instance, those like L.K. Advani and Murli Manohar Joshi, who, according to the organizers, were invited verbally but declined. Kalyan Singh, another accused in the case, again invited and declined, as is Uma Bharti, also an accused again, who was invited and who has said she is not going to attend. Moreover, some of the demolition accused are actually on the trust of the new temple that is coming up. The trust president, Mahant Nritya Gopal Das, and the general secretary, Champat Rai of the VHP, are amongst those who've been charged with criminal conspiracy, rioting and promoting hate in the demolition of the Babri Masjid. There's also the question of what tomorrow's temple event means for India's increasingly fragile state as a secular nation. The Prime Minister, with a galaxy of other top government and ruling party leaders, will be at the event, while the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh is personally supervising arrangements. Details of the Prime Minister's schedule, now made public, suggest that he is not simply attending. He will begin with the darshan of the Ram Lalla idol. He is then going to participate in the Bhumi Pujan program, and he'll also be unveiling a plaque to mark the laying of the foundation stone. Now, how does this square up with India as a secular country? Now, secularism, while part of the constitution, was never defined by the government, but it has been interpreted by the courts, most notably in the 1994 Bombay judgment, where the court said that secularism is one of the basic features of the constitution. To the state, all are equal and are entitled to be treated equally. In matters of state, religion has no place. No political party can simultaneously be a religious party. Politics and religion cannot be mixed, and any government which pursues unsecular policies acts contrary to the constitutional mandate. All right, joining us tonight on the show, we have with us Professor Suhas Palshikar, who's currently Chief Editor of the Journal of Studies in Indian Politics, and also Gaurav Vallabh, spokesperson of the Congress. We'll be just getting you more voices in just a second. Let me just start with you, Professor Palshikar. Now, you wrote a much circulated piece today in the Indian Express where you essentially said that at Ayodhya we'll see the dismantling of the old and the Bhumi Pujan of a new republic. Now, your vision that you write about and that you describe of this new republic does appear somewhat grim. Why is that? What disturbs you about what we are witnessing in Ayodhya?
There are two things. One is this Ayodhya Bhumi Pujan has a context, as you were pointing out a minute ago. And it is that context which makes things very difficult to appreciate it merely as a temple ceremony. Okay. The other thing there is that there is a longer history to the entire episode that is unfolding tomorrow. As you pointed out, it is not just about secularism, but also about the capacity of the Indian Republic to accommodate different religious communities. Right. Whereas in this particular instance, it is by excluding one religious community, it is by driving away the rights and claims of one religious community that this temple ceremony is being now conducted tomorrow. And that makes it very grim, that makes it somewhat more unsatisfactory, and that also makes it very dangerous.
Right. Now, as far as the secular aspect is concerned, Faizan Mustafa is also with us, Vice Chancellor of Nalsar Law University, joining us from Hyderabad. Faizan Mustafa, tell us, how does this idea of the Prime Minister visiting this inauguration of the temple, taking part in the inauguration, the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh is overseeing religious arrangements, how does that square off with the idea of India as a secular state?
Thank you, Vasu. In the Constituent Assembly, there was a suggestion that we start our preamble in the name of God. It was voted down. There was a suggestion that we mention word secular as well, but people said, well, it is obvious that we are creating a secular state, even if we don't state it explicitly. I believe after the insertion of word secular in 1976, every year we are becoming less and less secular. As far as the text of the Constitution is concerned, it does not permit or does not prohibit Prime Minister from attending a religious event. You know, there is a question of a constitutionality, there is a question of propriety.
Right.
If the Prime Minister is going in his personal capacity as a citizen, no law prohibits him. Of course, if you go by the precedent, when President Rajendra Prasad went to Somnath temple,
That's right.
then Nehru was not very happy about it. And he then wrote a letter to all the chief ministers that it is not a government event. I believe secularism is basically about the neutrality of the state. So on the one hand, it talks of relationship of the state with religions. On the other hand, it talks of relationship of individuals with religions.
Right.
So individuals are free to profess and practice whatever religion they want. But lately we have been observing that the state is tilting towards one religion. Yeah. So earlier,
Okay.
if there was a charge of or allegation of appeasement of minorities, there may be people who may now say that state is not doing the appeasement of the majority.
That's the point. That so what you're saying, Faizan Mustafa, is that basically, were the Prime Minister or any other government functionary to attend in their private capacity, that once the Bhumi Pujan is done, the temple is inaugurated, you want to go there and pray in your own private space, that's fine. But attending it as a head of government and being part of the public event, part of the public inauguration, you're saying that is the problem. That's where you might come into conflict with the idea of the state trying to maintain a neutral distance.
No, that's what I'm saying. What is happening, Vasu, even in France, if you look at French President Emmanuel Macron going and addressing the annual conference of bishops, and it was widely criticized. In United States, from where we borrowed our idea of secularism, where you have that famous Jefferson wall of separation, you have a national prayer day, and that proclamation is signed by the president.
Right.
It is only Obama who did not hold that prayer breakfast, but Trump and other presidents have been going to churches.
Okay.
So it is not really prohibited that you should not attend a religious
Of course.
function, but ideal situation
Ideally,
is
you should.
that you should
Okay.
restrain yourself.
All right. We're also joined by Praful Ketkar, who's the editor of the RSS Journal Organizer. He's joining us. Thank you very much, Prafulji, for being on the show. Now, just wanted to ask you, sir, that two aspects to this that we're looking at. Let me start with the first, that this is being pitched as some kind of great unifying moment for India, for the Indian Republic. But when you have a situation where the demolition of the masjid, which is essentially the site on which this temple is being built, that has still not been resolved. There is still no justice for that act. And you have a situation where those who are accused of the demolition, who are still being tried and prosecuted in that case, are actually going to be part of the inauguration. Some of them are members, like Champat Rai and Mahan Nritya Gopal Das. They're actually part of the organizing committee of this trust. How can this be a unifying event?
See, it depends on how do you want to look at it. If you remember and recall the event of Somnath, there was a similar kind of rumblings that were created about this. If you look at it
But there was no
civilizationally
demolition in
and
Somnath.
constitutionally both.
There was no demolition in
Listen,
Somnath.
yeah,
There was
I
no
agree.
violence in
I agree.
Somnath.
I agree, but still,
Hundreds
still,
of people didn't
still
die in Somnath or after, after
socialism
the temple.
on the basis of, I agree. I agree, Srinivas ji, but the point is the similar kind of argument. There was no demolition, there was no criminal case, but still Somnath was not considered as a unifying force. Somnath was considered as just Hindu revivalism. So this is just an excuse just to
No, but I'm saying in this case, Prafulji, in this case, unlike Somnath, in this case there was demolition. There is a criminal case. The Supreme Court has said that this is an egregiously criminal act. There are people who are being prosecuted who will be on the dais tomorrow. So surely it's a stretch to argue that this is some kind of unifying event.
No, again, as I said, it depends on how do you want to you want to see it. The simple point is, if you want to selectively read the judgment, because the same court has said that within 3 months you should constitute a trust.
Yes.
The same court has said violated for the mosque in Ayodhya. If you cannot be selective about the judgment because one comment is made. The other case is going on. The case will take place. But as far as this case is concerned, there is no dispute now.
Okay, let me ask you the other question that this throws up, which is to do with India as a secular state. Now, the RSS and the BJP has often called what the Congress practices a sort of pseudo-secularism, that you do minority pandering. You attend or you organize iftar parties, you wear the Muslim topi and so on. This is all minority pandering. This is pseudo-secularism. When you align with a particular religion as a government or as a ruling party. How is what is happening in Ayodhya tomorrow, where the Prime Minister is going to be participating in the inauguration, the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh is overseeing events, how is that not also pseudo-secularism? Because if the Congress is doing minority pandering, you're doing majority pandering.
No, I don't know what you are talking about. For me, Prime Minister doing it is a great historical occasion. For simple thing is, for me, the act, the symbol of the so-called mosque, where the Ramlala was already Virajman, and the rebuilding or reconstruction of the temple structure there is a historical occasion because somebody who created some kind of the statues are being destroyed in the US in the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yes.
Those are the symbols of racialism. Similarly, we would military and the British left. If you
I'm asking you a different question though.
Prafulji, for me,
I'm asking you a different question. I'm saying you welcome. Just hear the question again. Just allow me to frame the question again. No. Let me frame the question again. I'm saying that the Prime Minister is the head of government. He has taken an oath on the Constitution, which calls for a secular state. Now, he as head of government or the government cannot be aligned with any one religion, either way. So, how is he then inaugurating a temple?
That's what the entire problem is. Why do you see? I'm just justifying what I want to say, that Ram Mandir reconstruction is not just a religious movement.
Okay.
It is a national movement, and we should see it nationally. The way it has unified all the sects, the way all the states have come forward, the way all the castes have come forward for the Ram Janmabhoomi movement, and still if we are not ready to accept it as a unifying force, then we have a problem with our intellectual mind and eyes that pseudo-secularism has
so
rotten it.
So
Unless
it
we
is, so
understand
minority
then we won't be
pandering
able to
is
see it as a
pseudo-secularism,
national
but any majority
movement.
pandering is not pseudo-secularism.
Ye-
Okay, let's get Gaurav.
See-
Let's get Gaurav Vallabh in. Gaurav Vallabh, the Congress and its position on this has been fascinating to watch. You've got a situation now. Let's try and actually put up some of those tweets and images where everybody from Priyanka Gandhi to Kamal Nath to Manish Tiwari have all become Ram Bhakts and are tweeting in support of basically what is happening, this event that's happening tomorrow. So is it fair to say that, and we've been seeing this shift with the Congress now for some time, but is it fair to say that you've now completely abandoned the idea that you are some sort of a secular party that still stands up and fights for secular ideals?
See, our line regarding Ram Temple was never changed. From the beginning, we are saying that what Supreme Court is going to order, we are going to follow that. Because we are of the belief that the Prabhu Shri Ram was, is and will be in the spiritual, cultural and religious memory of our country. Because we believe Ram is about dharma, Ram is about righteousness, Ram is about Sugriv and Sabri, Ram is about Valmiki and Basha, Ram is about Kabir,
And what
Tulsidas
about-
and Redasa.
What about the demolition? What about the demolition of the masjid? What about the circumstances in which this temple is being built?
As you had pointed out in your show, that case is pending. We will welcome what courts are going to decide. Because at most,
But that-
as far as the governance
but
is
that
concerned,
history-
the
But that history
most
has no
superiority
bearing on
is
your
the
position on the
Constitution.
mandir.
Why there is no banning? Because from the beginning we are saying that we are going to welcome what court's verdict will be there. When
I see.
court had decided that there will be a Ram temple, then we welcomed that, because Ram is about the faith, Ram is about the spirit of dharma, righteousness,
I
Ram
see.
is about the principled conduct, Ram is about the
Okay.
intolerance, Ram is about the Durbal Kabal. That is what is our position.
Okay, let's get Professor Suhas
20 years
Palshikar.
back also we were saying the same.
Professor Suhas Palshikar,
Yes.
is this also part of what you said, these foundational pillars of the new republic, where essentially there's either avoidance or there's complete complicity of all political
Yes.
parties, including the opposition, the lead opposition party?
Yes, as I see it, all the political parties have been pushed to such a corner by the BJP and its Ram Janmabhoomi movement that no party can now stand up and say that, well, look here, the question of worshipping a particular deity is apart. The question here is political and social. The question is about accommodating the communities of different religious persuasions. And the question is about following a certain constitutional propriety. That stand is simply not taken, and it's not just today. They are not taking this stand right since the late 1980s. So when I blame other political parties just as much as I blame the BJP for the present predicament,
Right.
it is not because of their present position.
Right.
I think the present position of the Congress comes out of desperation.
Right.
Whereas in the 1980s and the 90s, the Congress was not so desperate. It could have cultivated a different narrative. It
Right.
could have created a certain platform for compromise and accommodation of different aspirations.
Right.
So Ram Temple is fine, but Ram Temple at the cost of not just destroying a mosque, but also destroying the confidence in the constitution by a large minority
Yeah.
is the most dangerous aspect of this predicament
Does
that all
that-
political parties find themselves.
Does that worry you as well, Faizan Mustafa?
Vasu,
Or not really?
We have been talking about ancient Indian heritage and values. If you go to ancient India, there was a very close bonding between state, temple and king. So if we are reviving our ancient values, no one can really object to it. But kindly recall what Sushma Swaraj said, that this Ram temple movement is a political movement rather than a religious movement. and it has given some rich dividends to BJP as a political party.
Right.
So you are going to have elections in UP in 2 years' time or maybe less. So let us look at it. My only worry is that while political leaders can participate, the way Chief Minister of UP is personally supervising, as per the invitation card, he is the guest, but he is doing as if he is the host. So he is not a host, and I believe that the minorities of this country are quite mature. They had said that if Supreme Court decides this way or that way, we will not object. Many Muslims are also going to participate. They have also invited Iqbal Ansari, the son of the litigant.
Of course.
So it's all good. But I think there is a point about winning the trust and the confidence of the minority.
Right, that's very important.
Maybe you can have big celebrations here,
right,
but elsewhere don't do anything which shakes their confidence.
Okay, I believe LK Advani is speaking. Let's listen into what he's saying.
मैं विनम्रता का अनुभव करता हूं कि नियति ने मुझे वर्ष 1990 में राम जन्मभूमि आंदोलन के दौरान सोमनाथ से अयोध्या तक राम रथ यात्रा का दायित्व प्रदान किया और इस यात्रा में ने असंख्य लोगों की आकांक्षा, ऊर्जा और अभिलाषा को प्रेरित किया। इस शुभ अवसर पर मैं उन सभी संतों, नेताओं और देश विदेश के जनमानस के प्रति कृतज्ञता व्यक्त करता हूं, जिन्होंने राम जन्मभूमि आंदोलन में मूल्यवान योगदान और बलिदान दिया। मुझे इस बात की भी प्रसन्नता है कि नवंबर 2019 में उच्चतम न्यायालय द्वारा
So that was LK Advani's first comments on this. Just get a quick last comment from Praful Ketkar about the fact that Praful Ketkar, we don't now it appears will be seeing Mr. Advani or Murli Manohar Joshi tomorrow at the event. Now, there's some confusion over exactly what has happened. The organizers claim they called both these gentlemen and said, would you like to come? And apparently they said we can't because of our age. But the offices of both Mr. Joshi and Mr. Advani says that they got no call or no invite from the organizers.
No, as far as I know that after deliberations, day before yesterday, there was a decision not to call anybody who is above the age of 90, and that's why Mr. Parasaran, who is also a trust member, is not going to attend tomorrow's function. But that was, I believe, as far as I know, that was a consensual decision.
Okay, but surely someone who is considered to be the architect of the movement, one would have thought he would be there. But anyway, at least we are getting to hear from him for the first time about his views on tomorrow's event. Well, that's all the time we have, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us on Reality Check. That's all the time we have. Thanks for watching. Good night.